we're going to look at it. So foul there on Indiana, on Hull there. But then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball, contact technical.
It's a little surprising to see so many of these happen in one game because...
Oh, and I don't like the way Lexie Hull...
Remember when the Indiana Fever and Minnesota Lynx last faced off? That moment is still etched in the minds of Fever fans. The one where Lexie Hull took an elbow to the face from Kayla McBride and yet somehow ended up being the one whistled for the technical foul. It wasn't just a bad call, it felt like insult piled on top of injury. Fast forward to their latest meeting, and Hull found herself with a chance to flip that history on its head. And when it came, the crowd felt it instantly. This wasn't just a highlight, it was personal, it was payback, and it was symbolic of everything the Fever had endured all season long.
Final score, Fever 83, Lynx 72. Indiana ends the regular season with an exclamation point. Fever have won 3 in a row as they enter the playoff.
Indiana needed a night like this, a game that didn't just put a number in the win column, but one that showed what resilience looks like in motion. Because when nearly half your rotation vanishes due to injury, the story isn't just about X's and O's anymore, it's about whether a team has the heart to keep showing up.
I know a lot of people will talk about Nafisa not playing, but I think they're really good without her. You know, they're just a really great basketball team. So I think it was a big win for us because they set the bar high standard wise. We know what to expect when it comes to Minnesota Lynx, and so I think going into the playoffs, it was big for us because being able to know guarding Courtney Williams, knowing that her thing is a pull up, knowing that now instead of not knowing that, it's big for us because we give ourselves a chance, and if they are the standard, we get to see where we are.
The Fever had already been tested more than anyone should expect. Caitlin Clark, who was supposed to be not just their franchise's rookie sensation, but also the spearhead of turning Indiana into a contender again, was ruled out for the season. What started as a minor groin issue snowballed into a season-ending injury announcement, and in one moment, the heartbeat of Indiana's campaign was silenced.
Flatlined.
Kind of all the other things like offensive rebounding that she can do.
Knocked away, Boston comes up with a steal. Here is Mitchell veering through the paint and lays it in.
She's so quick, and especially when she gets out in the open floor, you'll see her coming down. The quick left to right crossover just gets by. I thought she was sprinting. I didn't think she was lumbering.
It was a lumber sprint.
Up for the big girl.
Mitchell like a blur. That's a sprint.
For a fan base that had circled this season as the start of something transformative, the blow landed heavy. It wasn't just that Clark was a ticket seller or a national media darling. She was the emotional oxygen in every game, the one who made teammates soar a little higher and gave fans belief that things could turn faster than years of rebuilding had suggested. Indiana wasn't just losing a player, they were losing a sense of momentum.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been impressed with these guys since even the offseason, really the ones that I was able to work out with in the offseason, is how hard they work. There's a work ethic and there's a work style. And to approach everything in the same way, to be so energetic, enthusiastic, and dedicated every day. And I felt that way in training camp too. There weren't any days where I had to bring that out of them. So I think it's the nature of the women that we brought into this organization to continue to just bust their butts and play hard.
And yet, as often happens in basketball, the void demanded someone step forward. Kelsey Mitchell became that someone. Not in tiny increments either. She exploded into the centerpiece of the Fever's offense, and went on to deliver the most consistently dominant scoring season the franchise has ever seen, surpassing even Tamika Catchings in single-season production. 20 points every night, despite defenders swarming her, despite scout reports flagging her as the priority, despite carrying the dual responsibility of scorer and ball handler.
Only 8 teams have ever done that. 7 of them went on to win the title. As Boston gets free and lays it in.
She will be on my first team.
Boston in the paint, sneaks through 2 and lays it in.
Mitchell didn't just keep Indiana afloat, she dragged them forward against the odds, proving she was more than just a sidekick to Clark's rise. On the other end of the floor, and in the paint, Aaliyah Boston was the anchor holding everything together. She tallied up double-doubles, attacked the glass, battled bigger opponents, and secured a rebound record no teammate had ever reached before. When rosters were paper thin, When lineups were patched together on the fly, she was the stabilizer. She gave Indiana a base identity, the kind of reliability that prevents collapse even when chaos is swirling everywhere else.
Fever dub with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow!
Hell yeah.
You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
But the thing that truly separated Indiana was less about one or two stars and more about their collective refusal to fold. Game after game, hardship contracts filled in with pride. Bench players demanded bigger roles and did more than just survive minutes, they thrived in them.
Before the playoffs start Sunday tonight, it's regular season game 44 of 44 for the Fever as they host the WNBA's best team in 2025, the Minnesota Lynx.
Instead of letting the season unravel under the weight of bad fortune, they turned adversity into their rallying cry. Every absence, every whistle that went against them, every stretch where the national media wrote them off, became more fuel to prove they were still building something real. That mindset carried them into the matchup with Minnesota.
It'll be Alana Smith jumping it up against Aaliyah Boston. The ball is tipped, and it's time to hoop at Indy.
A 10-0 run to start this game for Indiana, and Minnesota wants a timeout.
Powers up top, tees it up, three. It's good! Energy!
Kicks it out, Powers. You bet! Back-to-back threes from Aerial Powers.
The Fever double up the Lynx in the first quarter. It's Indiana 28, Minnesota 14.
This wasn't just another opponent. This was a team that sat atop the standings and symbolized the kind of gold standard Indiana had been measured against and found lacking in the years since their last great run. The Fever knew what was on the line. Already locked into the playoffs but with positioning at stake, there was more to play for than just pride. They had a chance to prove they weren't sneaking in, they were arriving.
4 for 4 from three-point range. Mitchell connects on a three. Sims leaning jumper is good.
Kelsey driving left, puts it in off the backboard.
Will to it for the first half. Indiana shoots 58% from the floor.
From the game's opening minutes, the Fever dictated the tone. A 10-0 start signaled intent, and by halftime the lead was in double digits. The Lynx, usually clinical from deep, couldn't hit water from a boat, shooting just 2 for 20 from three-point range. Every miss piled onto their frustration, and Indiana's defense pounced on their shaken rhythm. The Fever shot nearly 60% from the field, not through flukes but by executing their plan with confidence. Just as important was who stepped up. Odyssey Sims, picked up on a hardship contract, wasn't supposed to be a game changer, but she came off the bench and dropped 15 meaningful points, playing like she had something to prove, and she did.
Fever dub with the MVP, okay? Bow, bow, bow!
Hell yeah.
You already know what it is. Dubs in the chat, you already know what it is. You already know what it is. Let's go to the playoffs with some momentum, baby.
Aerial Powers delivered her own seismic moment with back-to-back threes in the second half, effectively slamming the door on Minnesota's rally and jolting the Fever back into full control. Natasha Howard, relentless as ever, filled gaps all over the floor, whether snagging rebounds, switching defensively, or calmly hitting key shots.
Here's Mitchell. I think that's a 2. Doesn't go. And now it's McBride getting Hull. Here, that one might be a problem. Indiana just taking shots to the face.
Suddenly, the so-called thin bench was the deeper, smarter, hungrier unit. That storyline would have been enough, but what everyone couldn't stop talking about after the buzzer was Lexie Hull. Fans had waited weeks to see how she'd respond to that previous collision with McBride, and when the moment came, it became the kind of instant classic that defines rivalries. In the second quarter, isolated against McBride at the top of the key, Hull attacked with a quick dribble and hesitation. It was simple, yet surgical. McBride lunged, her balance evaporated, her legs tangled, and she toppled as Hull rose in control. The crowd recognized it immediately and exploded. Within minutes, the clip was surging all over social media. Some called it karma, others simply called it hilarious, but to Indiana, it was justice, not written on a scorecard, but performed in motion.
Tonight for Indiana, but then Carlton gives it right back, and Howard cashes in.
To perform like this, but they have 5 different players almost at all times who can bring the ball up the floor. Usually 4 or 5 who are adept at making shots from deep. I mean, you just saw a big there creating her own look as well from Natasha Howard. Career high in terms of her field goal percentage, and you see her here, the little spin to the middle. That's a tough shot.
Hull's night wasn't just about that single crossover. She stayed locked in defensively, tormented Minnesota's guards, closed off driving lanes, and forced them into empty trips possession after possession. She played close to 40 minutes, just as she had in their last meeting, and instead of looking like a placeholder due to injuries, she looked like a cornerstone. That's the difference between filling in and breaking through. You don't just occupy the spot, you redefine it. What made the moment significant was how neatly Hull's night mirrored Indiana's journey as a whole. Written off, underestimated, saddled with bad breaks, but still refusing to disappear. Instead, turning every bit of adversity into the fuel for their strength.
Mitchell, open 3. It's good. You can. Kelsey Mitchell is a hooper.
Passes Dantas, left corner 3. Bullseye. The shot clock. Boston left block, makes it in.
Just as the Fever weren't supposed to finish with their first winning record in 9 years, Hull wasn't supposed to humiliate the same player who had once left her bloodied and wrongly punished. Yet both found ways to rise. Even off the court, the culture shift was evident. Caitlin Clark, in street clothes, wasn't absent. She was coaching from the bench in real time, signaling plays, talking through coverages, joking with referees, and energizing her teammates. It didn't feel like she was sidelined. It felt like she had just swapped the jersey for a clipboard. Her presence underscored that this season wasn't lost to her absence, but was instead shaped by how others grew into leaders in her place.
Players who is messy, and she's on your team, you love her, and if she's on the other team, she's just annoying. Right? You just get in and rip the ball out of Lynx's hands and just end the effort.
When the clock hit 0 on that night, the record that read 24-20 carried more weight than just numbers. It snapped nearly a decade of losing seasons. It proved a point to the rest of the league. Indiana wasn't just back, they were building something durable. And Lexie Hull's signature play against McBride wasn't just a viral crossover. It was the snapshot of everything the Fever had become. Tougher, bolder, and more unshakable than anyone believed when the season looked like it might crumble. That's why the win over Minnesota wasn't just a victory. It was evidence of survival turned into revival. It was about showing that even stripped of half their rotation, even written off by critics, Indiana could still step onto the biggest stage of the regular season and dictate terms. And for the fans who had stuck through all those years of false starts and empty promises, it was the long-awaited sign that their faith was finally being rewarded. Lexie Hull's revenge was personal, yes, but it was also collective. It symbolized Indiana's rise from the background back toward relevance. And that's just the start. The Fever are heading into the playoffs not as survivors but as contenders, buzzing with energy, carrying 9 years of frustration turned into belief. They are no longer the team waiting for their chance, they are the team seizing it. So while social media may replay Hull's crossover, Fever fans know it was more than a funny viral clip. It was the embodiment of everything their season stood for. And this time, as the arena roared and the team celebrated, it felt like Indiana basketball was finally back on the climb again.